You couldn't make up a more ironic story than what's happening with Drake right now. After suing UMG and accusing them of secretly boosting Kendrick Lamar's songs, dragging Spotify and iHeartMedia into the lawsuit too, Drake's case got thrown out. At the start of the year, he was all over the internet trying to expose Kendrick for allegedly having fake Spotify streams. But now, the tables have totally flipped. Drake is suddenly wrapped up in a class action lawsuit claiming his own streams might have been faked by Spotify. This isn't even new talk. People have been whispering about it for years, and now the receipts are starting to surface. I've even brought this up before, and it's time to look at that proof again because it's looking real suspicious. Allegedly, Spotify's been quietly boosting Drake's music for years. Those sky-high streaming numbers, the endless broken records, the constant headlines. Notice how they're always connected to Spotify? Like, you never hear anyone say Drake just shattered Apple Music's record, or Drake took over Amazon Prime streams. Nope, it's always Spotify. And those so-called records, they're always oddly specific, like most streamed artist in the last 5 hours, or biggest first day stream in a leap year. It's weird, right? Now the wildest part, this new lawsuit wasn't even filed by just anyone. It came from another West Coast artist, RBX, who happens to be Snoop Dogg's cousin. That twist makes it even crazier. Drake getting tangled in a fake stream scandal after calling out Kendrick for the same thing. It's pure irony playing out in real life. The report drops a bombshell. A lawsuit against Spotify claims that billions of Drake's streams were completely fake. Not millions, not thousands, billions. That's wild. The new class action suit accuses Spotify of looking the other way while massive streaming fraud went down right under their nose. And apparently one artist got the biggest benefit from it all, Drake. The lawsuit was filed in a California district court led by rapper RBX, who just happens to be Snoop Dogg's cousin. That twist alone already makes this case sound like a Netflix documentary waiting to happen. The craziest part, even though Drake's name is all over the filing, the suit doesn't directly accuse him of personal wrongdoing, at least not yet. Here's what the lawsuit actually says. Every month, under Spotify's watchful eye, billions of fraudulent streams are generated from fake, illegitimate, or illegal methods like bots. Such mass-scale streaming fraud causes huge financial harm to real artists, songwriters, producers, and other rights holders. That's a direct quote, and it's intense. Basically, Spotify runs what's called a stream share model. All the money from subscriptions and ads gets tossed into one big digital pot. Then the platform divides that cash based on who pulled the most streams from that pool. So if one artist racks up inflated numbers, say through fake streams, it messes with the whole system. The money that should have gone to smaller, hard-working artists ends up getting swallowed by whoever's dominating those fake stats. It's like this. Back in the CD days, when you sold your album, you got paid for your actual sales. Simple, but streaming flipped that game upside down. Now, all the money from every listener goes into one massive pool, and your payout depends on your slice of total streams in that pile. So if someone's streams are inflated by bots, their slice of the pot becomes way bigger than it should be. The lawsuit points out that most of this money already flows upstream to the biggest stars and record labels in the business. So if an artist like Drake, hypothetically speaking, is sitting on billions of fake streams, that means he's taking a much larger cut of the streaming money than he actually earned. That's not just shady, it's unfair to everyone else who's grinding for real listens. This case isn't just about numbers, it's about the entire system of how artists get paid. And if these allegations turn out to be true, it could shake the whole music industry to its core. If you're out here faking your streams, you're basically robbing real artists of their fair share. Every fake play you pump into that giant streaming pot means you're getting a bigger slice of the money. Money that should have gone to artists who actually built their fan base the honest way and dropped quality music that people genuinely love. You can totally see why folks are mad about this. It feels like getting stepped on while someone else cheats their way to the top. That's messed up. When asked for comment, Spotify gave the classic PR response, "We cannot comment on pending litigation," but they did add, "Spotify in no way benefits from the industry-wide challenge of artificial streaming. We heavily invest in improving best-in-class systems to combat it and protect artist payouts, including removing fake streams, withholding royalties, and enforcing penalties." Basically, they're saying, we're fighting the good fight. But is that really the full story? Here's where things get interesting, because a lot of people believe Spotify might have have had a hand in this fake streaming game back in the early days. Think about it. When they were trying to blow up and pull in big artists and major labels, they might have offered a little something extra behind the scenes, like, hey, we'll get your song on top playlists, boost your visibility, and off the record, maybe even inflate your stream count a bit. That would have made Spotify look like the hottest platform in town. Over time though, things probably got too big to hide. Once lawsuits like this started popping up, Spotify had to clean up its image fast. Now they're acting like they've been fighting fake streams from day one, but some folks aren't buying that narrative, and if RBX and the others behind this class action lawsuit can actually prove their claims, it could turn into a major victory for smaller artists who've been cheated out of their cut for years. Spotify tried to defend themselves further, saying, "Our systems are working." In one case last year, a bad actor was indicted for stealing $10 million from streaming services, and only $60,000 of that came from Spotify, showing how effective we are at limiting artificial streaming sounds. Good on paper, right? But even with that claim, it's hard not to wonder, if their systems are so effective, how did billions of Drake's streams end up under the microscope? Something just doesn't add up. The report straight up claims that a huge chunk of Drake's 37 billion Spotify streams were fake, run by a massive web of bot accounts. That's insane. The lawsuit says there's solid proof showing that a substantial, non-trivial percentage of his total streams were inauthentic and linked to these fake profiles pumping his numbers non-stop. Now, do I believe that 100%? Maybe not all of it, but the details sound wild enough to make anyone think twice. The filing points out that Drake's name keeps popping up as the biggest example of this fake stream phenomenon, and when you think about it, it really does make sense. Every single time Drake breaks another streaming record, it's always Spotify. Never Apple Music, never Amazon Prime Music, just Spotify again and again. That pattern alone looks suspicious. According to the article, some portion of Drake's 37 billion streams, emphasis on substantial, were allegedly fake. The complaint even says this fraudulent activity went on between January 2022 and 2025, meaning this could have been happening for years right under Spotify's nose. That's a lot of fake plays. Investigators apparently found something super shady going on with VPNs too. They said an abnormal level of VPN usage made it nearly impossible to trace where Drake's streams were actually coming from. Normally, Spotify systems can pinpoint the country or even city of listeners, but in Drake's case, everything was hidden behind layers of VPNs and untraceable accounts. That's next level manipulation. The report explains it like this: an examination of Drake's streams revealed abnormal VPN usage that obscured the true location of the bot account streaming his songs. So basically, people, or bots, were using VPNs to disguise their real locations, making the streams look legit when they actually weren't. Here's a wild example from the lawsuit. Over just 4 days in 2024, more than 250,000 streams of one of Drake's tracks supposedly came from Turkey, but the data was falsely geo-mapped through VPNs to appear as if those plays came from the United Kingdom. That's some serious digital smoke and mirrors. Now, the document does mention the whole privacy issue too. It acknowledges that tracking user data can raise red flags, but it argues that without that level of transparency, it's almost impossible for the music business to stay clean and fair. Still, if those numbers turn out to be true, we're talking about one of the biggest streaming manipulations in music history, and Drake is sitting right in the middle of it. So wait, these streams were actually coming from Turkey, but the VPNs made it look like they were coming from the UK. What kind of digital magic trick is that? The lawsuit straight up says a huge percentage of the accounts streaming Drake's music were concentrated in areas that don't even have enough people to support those kinds of numbers. That's sketchy. To make it even weirder, the lawsuit didn't drop the exact figures or pinpoint which regions they came from, but it did claim that some of those supposed streaming hotspots were literally in places with 0 residential addresses. Imagine that, songs being streamed thousands of times from locations where nobody even lives. That screams bots all day. These fake accounts were masked behind VPNs, pretending to be in real cities, but in reality, they were operating from who knows where. The filing also pointed out some strange spikes in Drake's streaming numbers long after his songs had already been out for months. Normally, a song drops big in the first week, then the hype slowly fades, right? But not with Drake. The data shows that his tracks were suddenly jumping back up out of nowhere, while everyone else's numbers were falling off naturally. That's another huge red flag. Here's how the lawsuit breaks it down. While most top-tier artists see their streams decay after release, like going from 1 million the first week down to 300,000 or 400,000 the next, Drake's songs seem to defy gravity. They stay high for way longer than they should. In plain terms, his numbers don't fall the way everyone else's do. His plays just keep climbing, almost like someone's out there keeping the numbers boosted. Now sure, if you ask diehard Drake fans, they'll just say, well, that's because people love Drake. And yeah, he's got a massive global fan base, no question, but people in the industry know how streaming trends really work. Nobody, no matter how big, keeps doing record-breaking numbers week after week without at least a small drop-off. It's just not how the streaming world moves. The lawsuit's basically calling that out, saying these consistent inflated stats don't add up naturally. It's pointing fingers and saying, come on man, there's no way this is all organic. The patterns just don't line up with how real fans stream music. And here's the thing, there are plenty of artists who pull serious numbers even if they don't have the same superstar perception as Drake, but none of them have these bizarre, unshakable streams that never dip. So if these claims hold weight, it means something artificial might be keeping Drake's dominance alive on Spotify. That's a big claim, and if proven true, it could flip the entire streaming game upside down. Let's be real, there's only so many people on Earth who actually listen to this kind of music. Drake's huge, sure, but he's not some unstoppable force of nature. He's a talented artist, not a god, and that's exactly why the numbers in this lawsuit sound so wild. The filing claims that the amount of streams linked to individual accounts playing Drake's music is straight up insane. We're talking about accounts that play his songs for 23 hours a day. Like, what? That's not normal listening behavior at all. Nobody's running Drake's discography almost non-stop around the clock unless it's a bot doing it. If the plaintiffs can really prove that, then this lawsuit isn't just smoke. It's a solid case, because that kind of data screams manipulation. Think about it. You've got fake streams coming from cities that don't even exist, with zero population, empty zones showing heavy listening activity. Then on top of that, these same bot-like accounts are supposedly streaming Drake all day, every day, with barely an hour off. That's robotic behavior to the core. Something's off, and it's not subtle. Now here's the kicker. According to the lawsuit, less than 2% of users were responsible for about 15% of Drake's total streams. That's already suspicious, but it gets crazier. Around 9% of his total streams allegedly came from less than 1% of users. That's not how organic fan bases work. Those are numbers that point to artificial inflation. If that data holds up, the math itself tells the story. It means a tiny fraction of accounts were generating massive results, giving Drake's catalog a bigger boost than anyone else in the game. The lawsuit argues that because of this, his songs piled up way more total streams compared to other top-tier artists, even those with larger global followings. That's a serious claim. And here's an angle people overlook. Hip-hop isn't the only genre running up streams worldwide. When they compared Drake's numbers to global pop stars or Latin artists who pull massive streaming audiences, the difference didn't make sense. Those other artists have more listeners and bigger audiences, but somehow Drake still racks up more streams overall and holds steady week after week without that usual dip. That defies every normal pattern in the business. So if what the lawsuit claims is legit, it paints a picture of a massive streaming operation built around boosting Drake's dominance. It's not about whether he's talented, he clearly is. But if these numbers were artificially inflated, then that's a whole different kind of success story. This isn't just about bragging rights anymore. It's about whether the entire streaming system's been rigged from the inside. So picture this for a second. Say Adele has a way bigger fan base, way more people actually listening to her music, yet somehow Drake's pulling more total streams than she is. How does that even make sense? Something doesn't add up there. The lawsuit doesn't explain how the plaintiffs or their lawyers even got this data in the first place, and it doesn't reveal how their analysis of Drake's numbers was done either. That mystery alone makes the whole thing even more intriguing. Now here's where it gets spicy. I'm gonna speculate a little, because seriously, how would someone even dig up all this internal Spotify data without serious connections? I've got a theory. Remember when Drake sued UMG earlier in the year? That move might have accidentally opened Pandora's box when he went after UMG, trying to expose Kendrick Lamar's supposed fake streams. Drake was pushing hard to access Kendrick's contracts and streaming info, but a lot of that stuff was redacted. The judge shut it down and blocked most of what he wanted to see. Still, just filing that case could have stirred up some serious corporate tension behind the scenes. Here's the wild part. I honestly think UMG might have turned around and leaked certain information to someone else, just to make Drake look bad later. Think about it. If they already had access to data showing suspicious activity on Drake's side, handing it over quietly could make him the target of his own accusations. Now he's in the exact same position he tried to put Kendrick in. The irony is off the charts, and this theory doesn't come out of nowhere. UMG has made a few shady sounding statements in the past. Stuff like, "We can't believe Drake would come at us after everything we've done to support his career." That comment hit during his feud with Kendrick and that lawsuit drama. It sounded like they were hinting that Drake had crossed a line, and maybe, just maybe, they were waiting for the right moment to hit back. To make it even juicier, remember that earlier article? The one that said Spotify slams Drake's claim that it artificially inflated Kendrick Lamar's "Not Like Us" streaming numbers? Yeah, that one. Back then, Spotify was livid that Drake accused them of boosting Kendrick's streams. They even released an official statement saying they were shocked he'd accused them of anything shady. It's wild to think that the same company that was appalled at Drake's words is now being accused of doing the exact same thing, but this time in Drake's favor. At that time, Drake, through his own company Frozen Moments, filed legal documents claiming both Spotify and UMG inflated the streaming stats for Kendrick's "Not Like Us." And now, here we are months later, with Drake facing a lawsuit that accuses him of having inflated streams on Spotify. That's the definition of full circle drama right there. If this theory holds any truth, it means Drake's legal shot at UMG might have backfired in the worst way possible. It's like he tried to pull back the curtain and ended up exposing himself to the same storm he was trying to start. The music industry's a battlefield, and this lawsuit just made it clear that no one, not even Drake, is untouchable. So here's where it all really blew up. Drake even went as far as accusing UMG of straight-up defamation. Remember, UMG isn't just any label, it's the biggest music company in the world, and the one that distributes Kendrick Lamar's music. So Drake was basically saying, "Yo, you're helping my rival by boosting his streams." That's a huge accusation to throw at a powerhouse like UMG. In response, Spotify jumped in with their own defense. They filed official papers saying, Spotify has no economic reason to push Kendrick's song "Not Like Us" over any of Drake's music. They even claimed that out of all their artist tools, only one was ever bought to promote that specific track, and that was in France. Spotify basically said, "Chill, we didn't boost Kendrick. The song blew up because people genuinely loved it." And to be fair, when "Not Like Us" dropped, the streets, the clubs, and the internet were all lit up with it. You could feel the impact everywhere. But that didn't stop the tension. Spotify and UMG both came forward together saying, "Contrary to Drake's claims, we've never had any shady deal or secret arrangement to manipulate streaming numbers." In other words, they were denying everything and trying to show a united front. But even after all those denials, Drake wouldn't let it go. He kept pushing back, firing off statements and legal claims, saying he wasn't buying what Spotify or UMG were selling. He accused Spotify of trying to distance themselves from UMG's alleged manipulative practices, when, according to him, both companies were playing the same game behind closed doors. Eventually, Drake's entire lawsuit came crashing down. The judge dismissed it, and he walked away with nothing to show for it but a mountain of controversy. But that wasn't the end of the story, because once the dust settled, something unexpected resurfaced online. Out of nowhere, Nicki Minaj's old tweets from 2018 started making waves again. Fans dug them up, and suddenly the internet was back in full debate mode over Drake, Spotify, and the UMG drama. The resurfaced posts got people talking, questioning whether Nicki had already hinted at something shady happening behind the scenes years ago. An article covering the situation even said it best: the internet never forgets. Nicki's old tweets about Drake and Spotify started trending, sparking a whole new wave of speculation. People were connecting dots, suggesting she might have known something way before any of these lawsuits even started. So now, with Drake's legal battle officially lost, the only thing left fueling the conversation are those resurfaced tweets and fan theories. What started as Drake trying to expose others for fake streaming may have flipped completely. Now he's the one under the microscope, and the irony couldn't be louder. This whole saga shows just how messy the music business can get when egos, labels, and billion-dollar platforms start colliding. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share to stay in the loop with all the latest gossip.